All right, here we go. We have baseball royalty in the building. Jose Canseco.
Where?
Welcome to VladTV. Hey, man, look, I got to say, it's such an honor to actually speak to you because growing up in the Bay Area, you were such a larger-than-life figure. I mean, bigger than baseball itself. So to really sit down and get your story is really amazing right now.
Appreciate it. Hopefully I can give you a good story, or good stories. I've got some pretty good one, I guess.
Oh, yeah, you've got a lot.
Yeah.
You've got a lot. But this is our first time here, so I want to go ahead and start at the beginning. So you were actually born in Cuba.
Havana, Cuba, 1964, yes.
Okay, and Castro took over Cuba in '59.
Yeah, I think my father back then actually taught at a side job. He spoke perfect English, so he's actually taught English on the side and worked for a company called SO Oil, which in the United States was Amico Oil. But I know that when we came over, from what my father explained to me, I think it was 65 or 66. I think my father realized that Castro was going to institute a communist system, so we decided to leave. We had family in Miami, but of course, when you left Cuba at that time, you had to leave everything behind. So he left all his possessions behind. I think we were allowed maybe one suitcase of clothing each or something like that. So we went to Miami, stayed with, at the time, his sister was in Miami, some family members, and he had to really start all over again.
Okay, and did the family have any really bad experiences with Cuba in terms of like what Castro did with like the torturing and everything else like that, or not so much?
No, the torturing came when I got married the first time. No, there was none. Not that I remember. I mean, I was so young, so I think maybe my father realized that we could probably have a better life in the United States at the time.
Okay, so you grew up in Miami. Now, as a teenager, were you a good kid? Did you get in trouble, or just focused on baseball?
I was a good kid, extremely shy, extremely quiet. I think I remember getting, straight A1As till I think ninth grade. I remember getting one B1A and I started crying because I was a straight A student. And I think when I got into high school, I actually found girls and got involved with this one particular girl. My grades just went down the shitter. Can you cuss on this show?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they got so bad, I think I flunked every class. Imagine, I'm fluent in Spanish. I even flunked Spanish. I'm Cuban, so I think that kind of derailed me a little bit. And baseball-wise, I played the first year JV, second year JV, and then last year when all the great players left, they put me on the varsity squad. So I wasn't really that good of a high school player, but I kind of got better and better as time went on. I got bigger, stronger. I understood the actual game more. And, I was one of those kids where I was a late bloomer. I had no hair on my face. I had no hair under my underarms anywhere. In high school, I graduated, I think it was 5'11", 165 pounds. And of course, I ended up peaking out at 6'4", 270.
Okay, so you don't actually make your varsity team until your senior
year, right. Yeah.
So you're not this big superstar high school player, but actually you made MVP though, your junior and senior year.
I did. I think the JV team, I was the MVP first year. Second year, I think I was the MVP also. And then my last year, my 12th grade year, I played senior. As a senior, I played the varsity team. I think I tied in the nation with home runs with 10, because back then we only played a 20-game season. So I did okay. I didn't do great. Struck out a lot. Actually, no one really knows this, but I never played outfield in my life. I was always the third baseman. I pitched a little bit, but played a lot of third base. And then I was drafted to the minor leagues, and as a young kid, I think I was still 17, I decided to try out the minor leagues. I got a $10,000 signing bonus, which back then, for me, that was amazing. I bought my first car with it, and decided to go the minor league route.
Okay, was there a reason why you didn't go to college at that point?
Really no offers. I didn't have any type of, I think maybe a junior varsity at the time. was looking at me, but I was so young. I really had no offers at the time and wasn't really into school. Didn't really like school, didn't really like the structure. So I said, you know what, let me try the minor league system. Of course, they entice you with a $10,000 signing bonus. And back then, $10,000 for me was, wow, it was a lot of money. And then I said, well, if I don't make it in baseball, maybe I can go back to college a few years later. And I ended up, of course, being one of the premier power hitters later on.
Okay, so you graduated in 1982, and you went to the minor leagues, and you were there until 85.
Yes. Well, yes, 85.
Okay, but even in the minor leagues, people were paying attention. They were calling you Natural. They were calling you Parkway Jose.
It was funny.
You hit
because,
it so far to almost to the Parkway, in the stadium.
Yeah, the first couple of years, 82, 83, 84, I struggled. I really did. I played the Florida State League as a 17-year-old, just turning 18. And that's a league where there's a higher A classification, older players in their actual 20. I think I had 11 at-bats. I never played. I got one hit. Then I think I went to Idaho Falls, was a short season rookie ball. I did okay. From there, I think I went to Madison, Wisconsin. I got demoted. The weather was so cold I couldn't play there. Same year, I went to Medford, Oregon. I did all right. Next year after that, 84, I went to Modesto, California. I struggled there a lot. Then my mom at mid-season passed away. And I think that was a huge turning point because my mother had never watched me play professional baseball. So she was on her deathbed. She was already brain dead from a brain aneurysm she had. And I promised her right there, something kind of switched to me. The switch went off and I said, Mom, for you, I'm going to become the best player in the world. And right then and there, literally 2 or 3 days later, I found steroids. I started using PEDs and I was obsessed, literally obsessed with becoming the best player in the world.
Okay, so the steroids actually started in the minor leagues.
Yes, they started in 1984.
Aha. Okay. And then by 85, you were the minor league player of the year.
Went into camp, 85, did quite well in camp. I think I hit 5 or 6 home runs. I was tied in the league in home runs, but they said I was still too young. I needed more experience. Back then, in that era, the younger players really had to develop a lot more. Today, you're at a high school, you're a great player, you're playing in the major leagues instantly because they're trying to change the outlook of baseball. They're trying to make it more of a youthful game. Back then, the 80s and 90s, basically you found a lot of older players. A lot of veteran players were playing 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 extra more years. So you really had to prove yourself as a young player in the minor league system and really had to perform on a consistent level. So 1985, I almost make the major league team, but they said, you know what, he's got the talent, he's not ready. I think the attitude was when we bring him up, we don't want him to go back down. We don't want him to struggle. Now I play in Huntsville, Alabama, brand new stadium there. And yeah, I mean, I hit phenomenal stats. I think in 58 games, I had 25 home runs, almost 90 RBIs, hit well over 300. So those were kind of softball type stats. I did break my finger. I got hit on my hand. I missed 6 weeks of the actual season with a broken finger. I got promoted to AAA baseball, which for the month I hit, I think for a batting average, it's like 500. I was player of the month. Hit some very long home runs and did quite well. So even though I missed 6 weeks of the actual season with a broken hand, my numbers were just incredible. Then, of course, when the 40-man roster expanded in 1986, I was brought up to their major leagues to actually play.
Okay, so then you joined the Oakland A's. How did that feel?
Scary as hell. I remember I was at Tacoma, and Keith, the manager at the time, says he pulls me into his office and says, Jose, you've been promoted to the major leagues. Get your stuff. This is your last game. You'll play here. And I was very nervous. I remember flying, I think it was the next day, and right away I flew to Baltimore. We were playing against the Baltimore Orioles, and Storm Davis was actually on the actual mound. Now, people don't understand this, about the minor leagues, but back then, I had nothing. Basically, in the minor leagues, you have nothing. You have maybe 2 pair of batting gloves, The batting gloves you actually use, you have to retape them over and over again because you just don't have the ability to buy a lot more batting gloves. Maybe I had 6 bats during the whole entire season, maybe 10, maybe 12. And I remember using my bats over and over again, putting nails in them when they cracked to keep using them. I remember hitting a grand slam with a cracked bat that had 4 nails in it, these little wood nails we put in them, and tape, because we just couldn't afford it. And then the minor leagues back then, I wasn't really a well-known player at that time, so I didn't have endorsements. I didn't have people giving me bat deals. I didn't have batting gloves. I didn't have gloves, nothing. So it was kind of like, you had to do with what you had. You didn't get a brand new bat every time you cracked one. No, you had to kind of refurbish that same bat over and over and over again. Now I get called up, 1986, and with the Baltimore Orioles, I look at my locker, and for me it's Christmas. I kid you not. I'll never forget this. I look in my locker, I got 4 dozen bats. I got 2 dozen batting gloves. I got 3 Rawlings gloves. I got brand new uniform. I have this. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is Christmas. I've never seen so much stuff in my whole entire life. And they just throw this stuff at you because now you're at the major leagues. It's kind of like feast or famine. So the minor leagues, it's famine. Major leagues, you feast. There's no in between. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. Now I'm basically just getting over this. My locker, it's Christmas in there. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm in shock. All of a sudden I hear a voice say, Canseco, get dressed, you're gonna hit. I'm like, what? Wait a minute, I just got here, I'm in shock. You know, I got jet lag and I'm seeing all this stuff in my locker. I'm literally just playing with it like a little kid in Christmas. And someone tells me, get dressed because you're gonna pinch hit. And I'm like, huh? So I'm getting dressed as quick as possible. It's like the 8th inning or something. And I'll say, Canseco, you're gonna pinch hit. I forgot who I was pinch hitting for. They said, okay. I am so nervous, literally shitting in my pants. Storm Davis is on the mound. I'll never forget this at bat. So I was so nervous in Major League Ballpark, even though I had come from the minor leagues destroying minor league baseball. And I get up to bat, and when I'm standing on the on-deck circle, all I'm doing is looking around. And when I look down, my equilibrium is so off. My adrenaline, I can't control it. When I look down, the ground looks like it's 20 feet away. So I'm losing all sense of sense. I'm losing all sense of sense, to be honest with you. So I walk up, they announce my name. I'm hearing echoes. I walk up to the plate, and I'm standing there. It felt like a dream state. I just couldn't control my emotions. My adrenaline was going everywhere. I looked to the mound. Storm Davis looked like a 20-foot giant on the mound. I felt like a little ant facing, I'm not kidding, a 20-foot giant on the mound. And I was so nervous that I couldn't feel the bat in my hands. I remember Storm Davis throwing me 3 sliders. And before he let them go, I swung at him. 3 times in a row, I struck out. I was just so happy to be there and so happy to have all the stuff in my actual locker. So I think for the next 6 to 8 plate appearances, so nervous, I struck out like 8, 9, 10 times in a row, really. So then I'm thinking, wait a minute, is the major leagues so different than the minor leagues? Is the pitching and the environment completely different than what I just came from? Some of the coaches talked to me, some of the players talked to me. You know, after a little bit of time, kind of hanging out with the players and taking some batting practice and getting used to the stadiums and so forth, I kind of calmed down. I kind of realized that it was just the same game. I had to simplify it. And for that month of September, I hit some of the longest home runs ever. And actually hit one in the Coliseum back then where the ball went nowhere. Furthest ball I ever hit there, I remember at nighttime, hit the back wall. I actually have it on video, hit the back wall in the air in left center, which is guesstimated close to 600 feet. No one even come close. For that month, I ended up hitting 305 with 5 home runs. I kind of settled down and it all came in.
Well, you played 29 games, your first partial season. And then in 1986, you had your first full season. And then you were just out of there. You had 33 home runs, 117 RBIs, and you won the American League's Rookie of the Year.
1986, I can remember getting off to a pretty good start. Just told myself, just be consistent. I was still very young, trying to find myself, trying to become a better player. But by the All-Star break, I think I was close to leading the league in home runs and RBIs. And right after that period, I went into an 0 for 40 slump. I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. Everything I did was wrong. For example, if someone was stealing a base, I hit a line drive, I hit it right at the damn infielder running to cover the bag. Just everything went wrong. And I finally broke out of the slump with a home run. But that completely showed me the part of the game that you have to accept, which is the part saying you're not going to be successful all the time. It's an impossibility. Even though I had had a lot of success from AA, AAA, a little bit in the major leagues, but then came back in '86 and started off so hot, to realize that there are a lot of ups and downs in the game of baseball. I mean, to go 0 for 40 after the first part of the season, leading the league and everything as a rookie, it was pretty devastating, but I had to learn how to eventually get out of it and handle it.
Okay, so you have a blockbuster year in '86, and then in '87, Mark McGwire joins the A's.
Yes, amazing guy. Of course, we all used PEDs in that time, but they asked Mark McGwire a question. They said, Mark, do you think you would have broken the home run record without using PEDs? And he says, yes, I agree with him 100%. I'm going to tell you why. In '87, he didn't use PEDs. He was skinny. He was maybe 225. The man hit 49 home runs, but the point is that he hit 49, but the key is this. People have to understand this. Back then, Coliseum was rated the worst ballpark in Major League Baseball to hit home runs, especially at night. The ball went nowhere, with the biggest foul territory. I saw Mark and myself, we lost at least 15 to 18 home runs each because of that kind of environment. It's a totally different environment today than it was back then. If Mark would have been playing in a standard ballpark, he would have easily broken the home run record in 1987 because he hit so many fly balls in our ballpark that in other ballparks would have gone out. For example, I remember playing in Seattle, and there's a video of me, my first at-bat off Bankhead. I hit a line drive. A line drive. It went up in the second deck. I went, this ballpark is a joke. Next at-bat, Bankhead threw me a 3-2 sinker in on my hands. When I swung, the bat cracked in my hands. The ball went out of left center. You see me say as I'm walking around, if I played here, I hit 100 home runs. Then I started figuring out how Ken Griffey Jr., I don't want to take anything from Ken Griffey Jr., how he's hitting almost 60 home runs in that ballpark. Yes, all you got to do is make contact and the ball goes out. Perfect example, when Ken Griffey Jr. and Alex Rodriguez left that environment, their home run totals went down by 20%. Same situation if Mark McGwire and I would have been playing there at the Seattle Dome. Oh my God, we probably both would have broken the home run record every single year if we would have stayed healthy because the ball travels that much. So people have to understand this. Yes, Mark would have definitely broken the home run record no matter what without PEDs. No ifs and buts about it.
Okay, and you guys became the Bash Brothers.
Yes.
And I mean, Mark McGwire was a phenomenon. I mean, he ended up winning the Rookie of the Year that next year. So you guys are really like an unstoppable force right now.
Back then, Mark and I were working out in the gym, the Coliseum, and we both had pretty big arms, pretty big forearms, but McGwire's forearms are twice as big as mine. He's a freak of nature. The batting glove doesn't even fit around his wrist. It has to stay open. That's how big the man's wrists are. He technically has Popeye forearms. They're that out of proportion. So we were comparing forearms, kind of hitting them together, and then we were talking about, let's just, if one of us hits a home run, let's just hit forearms together. We did it, not knowing that it was going to turn into some type of social media was big back then. Of course it wasn't. It would have been a social media sensation. So after bashing forearms, I guess the Oakland A's, PR picked up on it, and boom, instantly we became the Bash Brothers.
Okay, so you guys are the Bash Brothers. You guys are doing your thing. And then at the start of 1988, you actually guaranteed that you'd hit at least 40 home runs and steal at least 40 bases, which you actually did.
Yeah, well,
you actually had 42 home runs and 40 steals.
Right. If you look at my track record before, I never had the green light, but I was pretty fast. I think I had an 87, in 86, maybe 15 stolen bases. I got caught twice. Maybe another 15 or 6 got caught 4 times. So I knew I had the ability. I didn't really know how to steal bases yet, but I had the speed and I worked on it. I was extremely raw. But so after the 87 season, before the 88 season, spring training came around, I worked with sprinting technicians at the University of Miami. And I had them teach me how to accelerate my first step. Because I was very tall, I weighed about 240 pounds, I was heavy too. So they taught me how to basically do a lunge jump. To move 240 pounds with the center of gravity of being so tall, it works against me. So they taught me how to do a lunge jump to accelerate the first couple steps, because stealing bases is simply, of course, you don't steal it off the catcher, you steal it off the actual pitcher, and your first 2 steps determine whether you're going to steal the base or not. No ifs and buts about it. So by the end of the session, I think I worked with them for about 3 months or 4 months. I actually was the fastest sprinter they had at University of Miami at 240 pounds, the biggest. Actually, they would clock me at a 4.29, 4.28, 40 consistently. That's very fast for a guy of my size. So when I go into spring training, I said, listen, I think this year I'm going to do the 40-40. They laughed at me, literally laughed at me. And of course, at that time, you would think, this kid's either arrogant, he's crazy. But I'm thinking in my head, I worked extremely hard. I didn't really know that the 40-40 had never been done before. I thought it had been done several times. I didn't think it was something so difficult to do. But when the media mentioned it, at one time I kind of doubted myself and said, did I stick my foot in my mouth here? But I said, wait a minute. I have the ability. I've got the power. I've got the know-how. All I have to do is stay healthy and apply it. So yeah, I guarantee it. I said, well, listen, I'm going to be the first person ever to do the 40-40. So I went after it. By mid-season, I was halfway there. And then by in September, I think I hit the 40th home run of Saberhagen. Then I think September 23rd in Milwaukee. Now, the ironic and funny thing about that scenario was that the Oakland A's wanted me to steal the base at home. So that game, I stole base number 39. And there was kind of like a tone saying, Jose, you have one more base to steal. Why don't you steal it at home in front of the crowd so you can kind of celebrate it there? But I'm thinking in my head, wait a minute, that would be great, but what if all of a sudden I get injured? What if, I pull a hamstring, something happens that I'm one base short and I don't get it when I promised, number one, my mom on her deathbed to become the best player in the world. And I knew at that time if I would accomplish the 40-40, I would win the MVP unanimously and be rated, at least for that time frame, that you're the best player in the world. So I just went after it and did it.
Okay, so that year, you guys play the Red Sox in the ALCS. You sweep them in 4 games, and then you play the Dodgers in the World Series.
Yeah.
So here's your first World Series, and it doesn't go as planned.
It started exactly as planned, to be honest with you. We swept the Boston Red Sox with a system that we use often. Great pitching and home runs and stolen bases. I hit a few home runs. I either tied the game or put us ahead. We had great defense. Eckersley came in, shut them down. Stewart, starting pitcher, kept them within range, and boom. We used that system during the whole year. Now we get to the 88 World Series against the Dodgers, and my first at bat, I knew Belcher. Belcher used to play for the Oakland A's. Very good fastball with a little slider or cutter. I knew I can easily hit him. I faced him before. He really wasn't overpowering. He liked to challenge guys, but at times he had very poor control. Of course, he pitched in the World Series as a rookie, so he was very, very young too. First at bat, I remember, I think the book on me was pitch me in, hit me. Do not let me get extended. Don't let me beat you. So they hit me in the actual wrist, the first at bat. Stewart comes out, hits sacks. Boom, they score a couple runs. I'm like, holy moly. I hope. And of course, Stewart hit sacks on purpose to show him that, you can't hit our players. That's fine. I get up now with bases loaded. And all I tell myself is this guy will not challenge me with a fastball for a strike. First pitch, fastball up, I take it. The only thing I'm thinking is right now, there's no way he would rather walk me than have me hit a grand slam. There's no way this guy's going to throw me a fastball for a strike. It's impossible. I'm sitting slider. Throws me a slider, middle away, I hit a line drive dead center. When I first hit it, I didn't think it was going to go out, but I hit it so hard it kind of backspun and took off. So it's like a 420-foot rocket line drive. It went out instantly. And right there, I thought, okay, this is how the Oakland A's, this is how we do it. Our power takes over. Stewart comes in, shuts him down, keeps him tight, keeps him close. Eckersley comes in, boom, scenario, shuts him down. I thought that game was going to go that way. Now we're in the ninth, and I noticed that Michael Davis gets walked. The big mistake that was made is simple. When Michael Davis still second, they should have walked Gibson. First of all, Gibson is a veteran player. He's got a lot of power. He's what you call wiry strong. He's a very strong, handsy man. So when Michael Davis steals second, they should have walked God, I went blank. Well, they should have walked Gibson, I'm sorry. 3-2 pitch. Just walk him. Don't pitch him. Right-hander coming up next. Right-handers cannot hit Eckersley. Left-handers, they've had some success off Eckersley. So I thought for sure, now walk him. I don't care. Drill him. Do whatever. The worst pitch you could have thrown Gibson right there. He threw him a backdoor hanging slider. Gibson with 2 strikes, I've watched his career, he just tries to make contact. He doesn't try to hit the ball out. He's just trying to make contact to drive that runner in. So he throws him a hanging slider. He's actually a little bit ahead of it, but then he releases, hits it with one hand. As soon as he hits it, I kind of take one step back and I thought I had a chance. All of a sudden this ball floats over my head and I realize this ball just went out of the ballpark. And I'm kind of sitting there thinking, what the fuck just happened here? You couldn't write a better script. That was an incredible moment that will go down in history because I knew that series was going to be a 2-game series. Simply, they win that game, Hershiser was unhittable. Now we face Hershiser, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, why is Hershiser so unhittable? I found out why. First of all, high velocity, late movement. So he actually mastered the movement on the baseball in exactly where the hitting zone is. Because if you throw an early pitch, you can see it break. You can kind of track it and hit it. The issue is when a pitch comes to the hitting zone, when you approach it, then it disappears. It's impossible to center. And that's what he had. He had the right amount of velocity and the right amount of pressure and spin on the baseball to where you could not center it. You would hit the top of the ball, you hit under the ball or miss it. He was literally unhittable. They win that second game, I knew the series was over. Because now, Hershiser can come in at any time. He can come in as a starter again. He can come in as a short reliever. He can do whatever he wants. And right there, we knew it was an uphill battle.
Well, you guys ended up losing in 5 games. How heartbreaking was it to lose your first World Series?
It was the way we lost it, but if you look at it this way, if you look at what the Dodgers did against us, everything for them went right. Hit and runs turned into doubles. Pinch hitters got hits. Guys walked. Guys hit home runs who maybe during the whole season hit maybe 12 or 13 home runs. They just could not do anything wrong. I remember Hershiser doing hit and runs and hitting doubles and singles. I mean, their game was perfect and our game was completely off. Now, granted, let's say we were by far the way better team. Let's say we were to play a 20-game series. Yes, we'd win 15 of those games. But people have to understand this. It's not the best team that wins in a short series. It's the team who plays the best will win a short series. And they outplayed us.
Okay, but even with that loss, you got the American League's MVP that year.
Yeah.
So that's a huge accomplishment right then and there. Okay, and then the next year, you guys come back to the World Series.
89.
Yep.
I thought for sure, well, I started off with a hand injury. I had the hamate bone in my left hand surgically removed. It was bothering me, so I missed half the season. But the team did great. They held on. We acquired Ricky Henderson, which was a great acquisition for us. Amazing. To me, one of the best players I've ever seen, and by far, undoubtedly the best leadoff hitter in history, Major League Baseball. And I don't see how anybody can outdo him because his power, his defense, his on-base percentage, the way he steals bases, the way he intimidates other teams. I don't think there's ever going to be another Ricky Henderson. So luckily, he helped us out a lot. I was out for, I think, half the actual season, but when I came back, I mean, we just took off and exploded and took over the actual division. Funny note on that is that in spring training, I don't know why we played the Giants so many games. We must have played them maybe 12 games, maybe more. We beat them every single game. Every single game we played, and we didn't just beat them, we humiliated them. So when I saw that we were playing the Giants in the World Series, I went, wait a minute, how did they get there? We faced them in spring training so many times, and we just slaughtered them. They had no chance against us. I knew for sure that we were going to sweep them. I knew they had absolutely no chance against us. Zero.
And you swept them in 4 games.
Yeah.
How did it feel to be playing your whole life? You promised your mother on her deathbed that you'll be the greatest player ever, and now you won your first World Series.
It was great, but it was kind of like a tainted World Series because of the earthquake in the 3rd game. So,
yeah.
I mean, that took a lot away from the celebration aspect and what the Oakland A's had actually accomplished for that period of time. So, I mean, we never had the parades. We never did any of that. It was kind of like a somber celebration behind it. But we knew at that time that, we had a great team. We had a great organization. It was kind of the starting of a dynasty. As long as we could keep the team together. And the key is for a team of that status and quality, you got to stay healthy. You have to have your players staying on lineup day in and day out. And we did that for a short period of time. We probably should have won more World Series than what we did. But I can say this. We did have one of the most exciting teams in Major League history. We had so many different characters. We had so much different chemistry. We had, the Ricky Hendersons, the Mark McGwire, the Cansecos, the Dave Stewarts. We had so many interesting characters that it was, I thought the entertainment value was just amazing.
Well, you're having all the success that year, but earlier in the year you have 2 arrests. I guess in Florida, you were pulled over for reckless driving, and I guess you had the police chase you for 15 minutes. And then in California, you got pulled over and they found a loaded pistol in your car.
So the first one, I think it was the issue with the Porsche. No cops chased me for 15 minutes because I had a Porsche that did 225 miles an hour. They would never catch me. It was the fastest street legal Porsche in the United States. It was 920 horsepower. It was created for me by Prototech. Believe me, they didn't chase me. They would have never caught me. I pulled over right away, and the officer asked me why I was speeding. And I'm bound to the truth. People know this about me who know me. I always, my father always told me, be honest, and you can sleep at night. So when the police officer asked me, why were you speeding? I said simply, I was testing aviation fuel. I was. The fuel was 119 octane. So I'm honest to a fault, and that's the way I am. The other incident, what was the other one you mentioned?
Well, you got arrested in California for carrying a loaded semi-automatic pistol in the car.
Right. That was kind of a weird event because that was in California, and that was when I had my surgery on my left hand, the hamate bone. I had a cast on. I went with my wife to the medical center, which was, I think, on some college campus. I forgot where it was. And when I came out, I guess when I had stopped, I had a registered gun in a pouch. So when the car when it broke or stopped, the pouch kind of slid forward. And it was the only car there. So when I came back towards my car was with my wife because they had examined my hand to see it was healing, to see if it was healing properly. And when I come back, I kid you not, SWAT's there, police is there, They got helicopters. It was ridiculous. Of course they knew it was me. They wanted to make a whole big scene. It was entertainment. They wanted to sell papers. And I didn't realize that it was a college campus. I guess you can't carry any type of weapons, but I wasn't carrying it. The next day in the newspaper, it kind of said, Jose Canseco was waving a gun around on campus. Of course, it's embellishment. It's a good story. It sells papers. So, yeah, that's what happened with that.
Okay. So then 1990, the next year, you start back up, and at that point, you sign a new deal, and you got a 5-year, $23.5 million contract.
Peanuts compared to today, huh?
Well, yeah, compared to today, but at the time, it was the highest contract in MLB history.
Right. Yeah.
With a check that big, I mean, did you buy anything crazy around that?
I paid off my father's house. I bought some family members' houses and cars. I took care of them. What did I buy? I bought a house. I think I bought a car, a couple cars. I think that was about it. You got to pay taxes. So right away, 40% goes to the government. People have to understand that.
Right.
And, when all of a sudden you've got more friends and family that you know. So you're helping out friends and family and cousins and so forth. I mean, you want to make sure that everyone is comfortable. And I was never a type of guy that was really into money that much. I was never that guy. So, it was great to have that kind of money. I just love to play baseball.
Well, that year you guys make it to the World Series again, 3rd year in a row, but you ended up getting swept by the Cincinnati Reds in 4 games.
Simply, it was bad from the very beginning. I can remember, if you look at those videos, Jose Rio pitching. Jose Rio played for the A's. I knew him quite well. I knew his style of pitching. I knew that if he threw strikes, he couldn't get us out because he didn't have anything to overpower. So he has 2 pitches, a fastball and a cutter, which back then wasn't a big deal to hit. I remember watching Ricky hit his first at-bat, 3-2 pitch, and look at it on video, guys. I kid you not, this far outside. The umpire called strike 3. I went, oh, my God. Game's over. Because at that time, we were locked in as a team. When we're locked in as a team, what happens is Ricky will take his walks if you don't throw him strikes. And we will tighten up the strike zone to have the pitcher come to us so we can do the most damage. Now, I go up to the plate, look at that at-bat closely, 3-2 pitch. This far outside again, strike 3. I looked in the dugout and I said, we have no chance against these guys because now they're expanding the zone so big that, the plate is big and Major League pitching is great, but if they have to pitch to the actual plate, the zone, pitchers would have a lot of problems. The pitchers that are successful are the ones that pitch corners and off the zone, and if the umpire gives them those pitches, it's going to be a long day for that offensive team. That's exactly what happened.
Okay, so you end up losing that World Series. The next year, you have a solid year. You get 44 home runs, but you guys missed the playoffs for the first time in 3 years. And was that the year that you started dating Madonna?
Never dated her, guys. I don't know what that...
Okay,
no.
So this is a fake rumor.
Well, spring training that year, Madonna's agency, someone had seen me, and Madonna was obsessed with dating a Cuban guy and having a baby from a Cuban guy, and I was Cuban born. No, this is a true story, so this is kind of funny. So Madonna's camp called me and asked me if I was single, and at the time I was separated from my wife, that Madonna wanted to meet me. I said, yeah, I'll meet her. I'm a big fan of hers. So our first meeting was when we're playing a series against the Anaheim Angels. Jeff Boris, my agent, takes me up to her house. And I meet her there. I kind of see her, and then we start talking. She's very aggressive, passive type individual. Kind of, to me, strikes me as bipolar. Can be a little girl at some points, and then kind of like a very aggressive negotiator. So she could run hot and cold. I'm sitting on her couch with my agent to my left, and Madonna says, do you go everywhere with your agent? I go, well, no, just this situation. We're here together. She says, come here. She points. She takes me in her room. I go in her room. I sit on her bed. She has blackout blinds. She hits the blackout blinds. She puts her TV on. Right to the part to where, I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie Truth or Dare. There's a part in the movie Truth or Dare to where she's on a heart-shaped bed and she's kind of masturbating, kind of fake masturbating on her clothes, like off. So literally she's at my left playing this scene, and I'm watching this scene, and when I look over to her, she's staring right at me. And then she says, "What do you think?" And I'm literally flabbergasted, nervous. I think I'm gonna get raped by this woman. I'm a young kid, I don't know what to do. So I'm kind of like in shock, I don't know what to say. So the scene's over, she clicks the TV, the drapes open, and then we walk out to where my agent is, and I'm literally nervous. I don't know what to say here. So then, fine, we left. We didn't realize what time it was, so now we get caught in the traffic going back to the ballpark. Granted, we have a game at 7:05. Now we're stuck in traffic. We get to the ballpark almost like half an hour, 45 minutes before game time. La Russa he's pissed. He is steaming. The media's wondering where I'm at, what's going on. Tony says, "You know what? You better have a great fucking excuse for you to miss batting practice and to be late like this." I told him I was at Madonna's house. She says, "Okay, that's a pretty good damn excuse." Puts me in the lineup. And I think that game I won with a home run in the later innings.
Okay. So then 1992 comes around. And on August 31st, in the middle of a game, you find out that you're traded to the Texas Rangers.
In the beginning of the game, actually. In the first inning.
Beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually
Did you see this coming at all, or was it a shock?
No. I never saw it coming. No one told me anything. I had no idea about rumors. My agent didn't warn me. The organization didn't warn me. La Russa, nobody warned me. I'm literally on the on-deck circle, about to walk out. And La Russa calls me back. He says, "Jose, come here." Jose, and he calls me back. And I thought he was going to play a joke on me. He was going to tell me something about the pitcher that he spotted. When he comes back, he just said to me, "Go up to see Sandy Alderson. You've been traded." And I'm like, "Huh? What did you just say?" It didn't kind of register. He goes, "Yeah, go see Sandy Alderson." I'm like, "Okay." So I put my helmet down, put my bat down, put my cap, and I'm trying to kind of like register this in my head. What just happened? Now I'm walking up the tunnel, and then that's why I meet Sandy and Jose. They were really cold about it. I mean, Sandy Alderson, a nice guy, but he's very mechanical, very cold individual. The way he just deals with you in business and just in the social structure, period. He's almost like, he reminds me of, Leonard Nimoy, Spock from Star Trek. He's that kind of an individual, that type of a technician, a mathematician, that kind of cold type individual to actually deal with. So, yeah, that was really weird to handle.
Well, earlier that year, you allegedly got into a situation with your wife where they say that you rammed her BMW with your Porsche.
Was that year earlier? No, actually, the true story behind that is that she had been drinking and I had been out. She was looking for me. So we were cruising side by side, slowly kind of screaming at each other, and our cars collided. When they collided, we pulled over. As we pulled over, I guess someone at the gas station seen the collision. Well, it wasn't even a collision. It was like a tap. We pulled over. Oh shit, we just made contact. We pulled over and the cops were called. As soon as the cops were called, they hit me with those charges. Right away.
Okay. Well, the next year, you had this game against the Cleveland Indians. And Carlos Martinez, he hit a fly ball. You go to try to catch the ball. You miss the catch. It hits your head and scores a home run.
There's something even way funnier than that. The night before, I had met Jessica, which eventually she became my wife and the mother of my daughter, Josie. So the night before we go out, Palmero and Franco and myself, it was a local restaurant. I think it was Hooters I see Jessica there. I kind of fall in love with her. I get her number. I ask her to come out to the game. She comes out the next day to the game. I'm playing right field. The first thing they tell you in Little League is, listen, don't take your eyes off the ball. Keep your eyes on the ball no matter what. So now Martinez hits this kind of like semi-line drive, and I break back quickly to make sure I actually get a beat on it. As I'm breaking back, I'm feeling the wall kind of come upon me really quick. So as soon as I turned to see where the wall was, I didn't realize that Martinez had hit the ball harder than what I thought. Now, as I'm looking back to find the ball, as soon as I look, it hits me right on top of the head, bounces off, goes over the wall because I'm so tall, and that's like a 10-foot wall. Just ricocheted, went straight up over the wall. I slam into the wall. I really didn't know what happened at first. I'm kind of looking on the ground for the ball, and I look to my right. David Holtz is in center field on one knee laughing. Literally just laughing. He couldn't stop laughing. Then I realized, holy shit, did that ball just hit my head and bounce over the wall? Him and I laughed the whole entire inning. What's even worse is the aftermath. So then I meet Jessica afterwards, and I'm thinking in my mind, oh my God, how am I going to explain this? I'm never going to get laid now. This girl's never going to hang out with me after seeing that. And really, I kind of played it off. She's like, does that happen all the time? I go, yeah, it's a home run, but I helped the guy out. So we kind of blew it off. Now we have a series in New York. Oh my God. Now I got to play. Now I got to deal with the media. I got to deal with the New York media playing right field out there. They had to stop the game so many times. People throwing stuff at me. People wearing helmets with balls stuck to it. It became the most well-known blooper in history up till today. I can say that.
Okay. Well, you guys end up getting married. In 95, you joined the Boston Red Sox. And then in 96, you have your daughter.
Josie, yep.
Mm-hmm. Years later, she ends up posing in Playboy and becomes a Playmate of the Month. How does a father get his head around that?
You don't. You really don't, because you know what? You always see her as your little girl. You always see her. But at least I didn't want to look at the pictures, but eventually you look at them. At least it was done in tasteful type manner. But of course, I didn't really know about them until they were done after the fact. But I'm proud of her. She's done so many things. She's now Victoria's Secret supermodel. She's doing quite well for herself. Very established. Thank God she looks like her mother. I think she got my height. Her mother's 5'5", I'm 6'4". So I think she got my kind of build, very tall and lanky and muscular, with her mom's looks. So I'm happy she's doing well.
Well, in 97, you come back to Oakland again. And Mark McGwire is there as well. Now, at this point, are the steroids still going on, and is everyone on the team pretty much taking them?
Oh, yeah. At this point, steroids are pretty much kicking. I think at this point, steroids are at their peak of actual use. I think at the peak of actual use is probably 80%, 85% of the league was using it. And, at that time, it kind of became kind of an even playing field. Because if you really look at it, if the pitcher's using it, the infielder's using it, the batter's using it, everybody's using it, now it's an even playing field. So if you were not using some type of PEDs or some type of enhancements, you were the minority. I mean, if you put it in perspective, before PEDs, players were using marijuana, liquor, and cocaine and amphetamines to get a boost. So to me, is that cheating also when you can use an upper and amphetamine, a cocaine before a game to get you that, to get you that edge or, it is in a way. I think it's more of a drastic way because it kind of works within a time frame of a couple hours. PEDs it's a gradual type thing, so it's a different type thing. So, you got to categorize really what's cheating and what's not, if other players did it, if they did not. That era in time will always go down as the PED era, but I truly believe that eventually those players who qualify numerically will be inducted into the Hall of Fame for sure.
Well, I remember seeing, I think it was a Real Sports or a 60-minute special on A-Rod, and they talked about how he worked with a doctor to get around getting detected through the testing, where he would take it at a certain time, and then, you know, he knew when the test was coming. How are you getting around getting caught for taking steroids during that time?
You weren't. Major League Baseball knew. Plenty of players tested positive, just didn't care. Major League Baseball was going to do nothing about it, you know, until I wrote that book, Juice. No ifs and buts about it. You can't really get around the testing. But at the time, you know, you talk about Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, and when the game was struggling, bringing back the baseball with all the home runs. You know, obviously they were using PEDs. A lot of players were. But, you know, the game was thriving. Everybody wanted to see the home run, the long ball. It was a successful time, and Major League Baseball was, you know, thriving at the time. The fan base was increasing by 10, 15%. So they were not going to do anything about it. They would have never done anything about it. So yeah, they were testing us. We were testing positive. They didn't care. If they were testing us at all, they just didn't care. But they absolutely knew that we were using PEDs.
Well, that same year in 1997, you got arrested for allegedly hitting Jessica.
Okay. Now,
Can you talk about that?
I actually pulled her hair. It wasn't a strike, no. I pulled her hair, and let me tell you something. It's funny they make a big thing out of that. I've pulled women's hair much harder than that while having sex with them. I don't know why they made it such a big deal. I don't get it. I really don't get it. So no, it was about pulling her hair. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you pled no contest, and you got 1 year probation, and you had to attend counseling for that.
Right.
Then the next year, you signed a 1 year deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. And you got to play with Roger Clemens. Now, was it around that time that there was the infamous pool party situation?
You know, Roger had been to my house several times. I think the information kind of got mixed up because we did, when I was with the Devil Rays and then with Bob, you know, playing against them, Roger was over there several times. I had several parties because my house at that time was on 4 acres, was 22,000 square feet. And I had a waterfall lagoon pool. It was called the Resort. It was so big, the house, that you can get lost in it. So at times, actually, players would come over and I wouldn't even see them because the whole area was so damn large. They come in, they come out. So Roger had been there several times. I think the information got so mixed up, the time frame got so mixed up that they didn't know what to do with it.
Okay, was he at your pool party? Because he kept denying that he wasn't.
Not that day. That's the problem. He had been there several times. They're talking about a specific time and date. No.
Okay.
That's where the time frame got mixed up.
Right, because he got dragged into the whole steroid controversy as well and had to go through. Well,
here's the funny part about it. I was great friends with Roger. I was great friends with his wife, Debbie. I knew his kids, all his friends. And usually when I have that type of relationship, the individual trusts me completely. And if they ask me for PEDs, yes, I'm getting the PEDs for them. I'm putting them in contact with PD individuals that can get them the right type. Roger never in any way, shape, or form, I mean, we may have made fun of it in some way, shape, or form, but never asked me to put them in contact, never asked for PEDs, none of that. Zero. Nor did Debbie. So that's the truth.
Okay. Well, then in 99, you signed a 3-year deal with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. And how was that whole experience?
It was great. Let's go back to Toronto Blue Jays in 98. Something funny happened there. I got colluded against Gordash. I think that year I hit 46 home runs, 100-something RBIs. I was on my way to do the 40-40. They talk about it in the actual media. And by the All-Star break, I had more than 24, 25 home runs, 23, 24 stolen bases. I wanted to do the 40-40 again. Toronto Blue Jays and Gordash pulled me aside. They said, Jose, we don't want you stealing bases anymore. And I'm thinking, why? I'm about to do the 40-40 again. Well, I found out why later on. Well, I ended up stealing 29, one here, one there, against their wishes. I could have done 40-40 easily. So I think I come in second in league in home runs, whatever. So now I'm figuring, okay, the Toronto Blue Jays are going to sign me to a multi-year deal. Back then, those players with that kind of quality stats are making $8 to $10 million a year, maybe a 4 or 5 year deal. I'll never forget this. I'm in my gym in my house, and Gordash calls me. He says, Jose, we want to tender you an offer. He said, we want to pay you $1 million, and you better take that because no one else is going to offer you a penny more. The phone fell out of my hand, hit the ground, and I knew right then and there I was being colluded against. That's why they stopped me from doing the 40. Can you imagine a player does the 40-40 and gets $1 million a year and that's it? Other sub-players are making 10 to $1 million. Don't even do that. So right there, I knew Major League Baseball at that point in time wanted me out. And I knew it was going to be very difficult to find another team to play with.
Well, in 2000, you get traded to the Yankees. And you guys win a World Series. But you said that was actually the worst time in your life.
It was because I'm completely healthy and never played. I wasn't even on the playoff roster, period. But I knew, when I got there, I knew it was a block because if you look at my stats, career-wise against the Yankees, they used to call me the Yankee killer, especially Pettit. Every time I see Pettit, I hit at least 1 or 2 home runs off. I used to destroy the Yankee pitching staff. So it was a great move by the Yankees because they blocked the trade for the Boston Red Sox and the Oakland A's of getting me and playing against the Yankees and destroying their pitching staff. So I knew when I went over there, they already had David Justice, they had Glenn on the Hill, they had Luis Polonia. I was just a strategic block for them in the sense of they didn't have to pitch to me. I knew I wasn't going to play. Even Joe Torre told me, listen, I've got my guys. I think you realize what's going on here. And I said, yeah, I realized. It was a block. I will destroy you guys pitching. So ironically enough, they only played me against the teams that were trying to acquire me, the Boston Red Sox and the Oakland A's. So when I faced the Boston Red Sox and the Oakland A's, of course the Yankees gave them a taste of what they could have had. I destroyed their pitching staff, had some of the longest home runs ever. We entered the playoffs, I was not even in the roster. It was a terrible time for me because I was completely healthy, literally destroying the ball every at bat, and just was not playing at all. But I understood Joe Torre that he was very faithful to his players and his team.
Well, then October 2001, you and your brother Ozzy were hanging out at a nightclub in Miami, and a fight breaks out.
Yes, a fight broke out. I was there. It was Halloween night in this very huge nightclub, a very well-known club in Miami. And I was with a beautiful girl. So was my brother. The 2 girls are coming out of the bathroom. And my brother and I are just standing there. And as they come out, we noticed that 2 guys approached them with drinks in their hand. And one of the guy lifts up the girl's skirt that I'm with and jams his hand between her legs. And just literally just jams his hand between her legs. Now the girls start arguing with these guys. As we come over, the 2 guys come at us with a beer bottle in his hand. The one guy came at me, and I just hit him straight with an open palm in the face here and cut him wide open. The other guy goes to attack me. My brother kind of gets into a scuffle with him, and they go off to the right side on the actual crowd. I lose them. I lose this guy. This thing happened so fast, it was crazy. So after I hit this guy, I guess it broke his lip. I lose him in the crowd. I guess my brother ends up fighting with both of them. All of a sudden, I lost him. I can't find him. This is a huge club. My brother gets into a scuffle with some of the bouncers. And by the time I get over there, I see nothing. A couple of the bouncers grab me. One grabs me by my neck. I flip him over. I get into a fight with 3 bouncers. I handle them pretty easy. Then I'm kind of squaring off with another bouncer. I said, what are you guys doing? And they go, Jose, stop. I go, what do you mean you guys are attacking me? I'm not attacking you guys. So the whole thing kind of settles down. And we got hit with some interesting charges of assault, stuff like that. Ironically enough, the cameras were off that night, which is bull. The cameras were on. What they didn't want to show is the fact that we defended these girls, that the bouncers actually jumped us. They hurt my brother because one of the bouncers grabbed him by his neck and stuck his wrist bone into his neck and kind of broke his larynx a little, was coughing up blood. So they just didn't want to show that. That's exactly what happened.
Well, one of the guys you got into a fight with had a broken nose, and the other one had 20 stitches in his lip.
Right. I think probably I did the stitches and my brother broke the other guy's nose. Yeah.
Okay, you guys were charged with 2 counts of aggravated battery, but
Right.
you just got probation and community service.
Well, we were having some other issues that we decided not to fight it. We decided, okay, whatever. We don't want to get involved with this issue. Yeah, exactly right.
Okay, and then that next year in 2002, in May, you announced that you were retired.
Yeah.
Was there a last straw or just something that triggered that retirement? Because you still were in good shape and still were able to play.
I could have played for another 4 or 5 years. I think what it was is that I knew Major League Baseball was blackballing me. I knew that I had no chance to get back up to that level. They had me in AAA, which was absolutely freezing over there. And at the time, I was trying to acquire and spend more time with my daughter, Josie, because she was very young. So I decided to, under the circumstances, really give up baseball and focus more on my daughter, Josie.
Well, that next year, you know, you're going through, I guess, a divorce with your wife at the time?
Probably, most likely. Separation, divorce, yeah.
Right. And you missed a court appearance
Yes.
while working out a custody dispute.
Right.
And the judge revoked your probation, and you got sentenced to 2 years house arrest, 3 years probation.
Well, I actually got put in jail for 4 months. I spent 4 months in jail. Correction, you're correct. First it was house arrest, so I was under house arrest. Then they violated my house arrest because they did a urine sample and said that they found a PED in my system, something of that sort. Then arrested me and put me in jail. But eventually what we found out was that the PEDs I was using in the past, when we did an investigation, which no one really knew, had a very stubborn metabolite that mimicked the actual PED. I spent $140,000 of my money with experts that had to basically prove this in court after I spent 4 months in jail already. Right.
How does it feel to be Jose Canseco, 2-time World Series champion, all these other awards, everyone knows you, you're bigger than baseball, and here you are in jail in a dirty cage eating shitty food with a bunch of criminals around you?
Well, people don't know this, but after that time, I had a really bad time. I actually had $20 in my pocket and lived in a garage for about 6 months. So I don't think people know that part of it either. Yeah, I went through some really hard times. When I wrote the book Juiced, I made millions, invested that money in a property and lost that. But after that, there was a period of time where no one would talk to me at all. No one would deal with me. No one would hire me. And financially, I was strapped. So I ended up living for about 6 months in a garage. So yeah, I don't think people know that either.
Okay. Up to that point, how much money had you made in baseball?
I think the amount we come up with was about $55 million.
So you burned through $55 million.
Well, I can tell you exactly where every red cent went to. It's funny. You got to start with taxes right away, 40%.
Okay.
You got to start with divorces that are $7 million. Bad investments, family, friends. It can go pretty quickly if you're not really interested of where it's going. Yeah. Stock market, I lost $11 million when it crashed. So yeah, I can tell you where every cent went.
Okay. So you decided to write this book, Juiced. And I remember there's an interview with Matt Lauer, who was basically asked you if you were writing the book because you were broke and needed the money. In that interview, they said that you had sold your World Series ring online. You sold your MVP award for $30,000. You owed like $32,000 to the state of Massachusetts. You actually denied some of that, but you're also telling me that you were broke around that time.
Actually, when I was completely financially devastated was after the book, after I made the money on the actual book. That's when really everything hit rock bottom.
Okay. So you go and write the book Juiced. before writing the book, did you know what was about to happen when you dropped that book?
No. I don't think anyone has an idea or can fathom the impact that book would have. The original manuscripts didn't involve players' names. I remember having a meeting with HarperCollins and Judith Regan and not wanting to put the players' names in there, but then they would not publish a book. Listen, at the point in time, I was probably so angry at Major League Baseball. My attack was on Major League Baseball. It wasn't on the players. For them blackballing me from the actual game. I was 37 years old. I still could have played another 3, 4, 5 years easily with my physicality. So it came down to, there was a point in time I remember sitting there and I had like one devil on one shoulder and an angel on one shoulder. Devil saying, yes, get Major League Baseball back. Put the players' names in there. Go ahead, do it. And the angel was saying, no, forgive and forget. Don't put the players' names in there. Don't attack Major League Baseball for what it did to you. And I guess the devil won out. And that's when I started really putting the names of players. Even though I left some players out, I think they were just, HarperCollins was just happy with the A-list players that they had in there, because I left a lot of players out.
Well, in the book, you named Mark McGwire, Rafael Palero, Jason Giambi, Ivan Rodriguez, Juan Gonzalez, and you said that not only did you see them take steroids, but you actually injected some of them with steroids.
Correct. Every single one of them.
You even said that up to 85% of Major League players took steroids.
At its peak of steroid use, absolutely, yes. I believe so.
These guys that you named in the book, how many of them did you have conversations with afterwards?
None. Zero.
None.
Not one would speak with me. And, the whole strange, ironic part of this whole story is that if they did not use steroids, they could have sued me for slander. Not one sued me. What does that tell you? Simple.
Well,
truth hurts.
A lot of people denied it, but then you have situations like, Giambi admitted to steroid use in a testimony.
Yeah, they all admitted eventually, and I think it's passe. It's something. Yeah, it's no big deal now, but yeah, I'm sure they'll all say, we did it.
Right, Mark McGwire ultimately admitted to steroids.
Yeah.
And then the next book you named A-Rod.
Right. He was one of the players I kind of held up because A-Rod and I were friends. We go way back. But I started realizing that I found out that A-Rod was having an affair with my wife, Jessica, at the time. So that kind of instigated this whole, I'm going to talk about A-Rod now, let the world know who he really is and what he's really doing. I put him in contact with known PED dealers, and the guy I mentioned actually, once I mentioned his name, left the country. A-Rod paid him to leave the country so he wouldn't be found. A-Rod he's kind of like, he has some people around him that are very dangerous, kind of thuggish people who he pays off. And we found that out when you look at the movie against this really movie that came out about him, where they portray the actors with kids. I forgot the name of it was now. Whatever it was. But you find out more about him and his background and the people who deals with in all of these stories.
Right. I think recently on Twitter you said good morning to everyone, especially J-Lo, who had just recently allegedly broke up with A-Rod. So is that sort of a get back for the whole thing with his,
It is. It's kind of a little jab at him. They're not going to work out. I think I know A-Rod. I know what he likes. And J-Lo's not his type. Number one, she's too old for him. Number two, she's too out of shape. A-Rod likes beautiful fitness models, young girls like my ex-wife, Jessica. I mean, they have to have a certain look to them. A-Rod was obsessed with my ex-wife. A-Rod saw Jessica, my wife, at the first time in my gym, literally said out loud, he didn't realize I was next to him. He was drooling. And he said, "Oh my God, that's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life." To quote. And he went after her. Eventually, when her and I broke up, we got separated, they got together. I thought we were friends. I actually confronted him one time, and I asked him about it. And he said, "I'm a man's man. I wouldn't do that." I go, "You're a fucking liar. That's what you are." As a matter of fact, I spoke with A-Rod's mother. A-Rod's mother and I were very good friends back then. And his girlfriend, Christina, at the time. And A-Rod's mother told me, but not in, all the words, but forget about Jessica, your ex-wife. Basically saying she's been here. So yeah, A-Rod and I have a big history. Have a lot of history together.
Well, when you talk about steroids, Barry Bonds' name always comes up. The controversy over the 756th home run ball, where I think, didn't Mark Echo buy it and he wanted to put an asterisk on it or something like that?
I didn't follow that, but I think you're right.
Yeah.
But I didn't really follow that story.
Okay. Did you interact with Barry Bonds at all?
I did one time, and it was in the Las Vegas Home Run Challenge. I think it was 2000. The first Las Vegas Home Run Challenge they had, it was 2000. And I remember we were in the locker room there, all the all-star players, the home run hitters competing. And I took my shirt off, and I was about 255, 260, but I was ripped. And the media's there, and he screams across the lockout. He goes, to quote, "Canseco, what the fuck have you been doing?" And I looked back at him, and I said, "The same thing you're doing." Saying I'm using PEDs, you're doing the same thing. So he kind of shut up. I've got nothing against him. I hear he's very arrogant. Won't sign balls for players or bats, stuff like that. But I have really nothing bad to say about him. I think he's probably one of the greatest players that's ever played the game. I think people have to understand that just because you use PEDs is not going to make you a Major League Baseball player. It's not going to make you successful. Because if it does, then everyone should have hit 800 home runs, right? I should have done it. Everyone under the PED status should have hit at least 700 home runs. But I guess people get caught up in that and realize that's not the way they work. They don't make you a super athlete. He was already a great baseball player.
Well, your old manager at the A's, Tony La Russa, made a comment about you. He said, "I'm embarrassed that I was a manager of yours and that I could have shed more of a professional light and a personal light on how you should conduct yourself. You're staining the guy." I think you're talking about Mark McGwire. He was talking about Mark McGwire at the time. "You're doing it for whatever your personal motivations are, and for people that say, well, that may be the truth to it, there isn't any truth to it."
Well, he called me a liar, but he of course, La Russa knew exactly what's going on. First of all, people have to understand that Mark McGwire is, La Russa's like a father to Mark McGwire. The only reason Mark McGwire played with the Cardinals was because La Russa was there. They got along great. He's like a second father to him. So, of course, like any father, you're going to defend your son no matter what. If you have to lie for him, you have to kill for him, absolutely. But, obviously, guys, if you have any common sense whatsoever, have any intelligence whatsoever, all the managers knew. The owners knew, coaches knew, trainers knew because I educated them on how to use PEDs properly. You have to understand something is that a trainer's main job is simply what? To get the players back on the field, to get them off that disabled list. What quicker way to do it? Through a regimen of working out, PEDs and supplements, and some type of diet that accelerates the healing process. So, yeah, I understand why Tony did that. He is very loyal to Mark McGwire.
Well, in your first book, you actually were somewhat of an advocate for steroids, and you felt that steroids are a good thing if taken properly. Do you still feel that way?
Absolutely. If taken properly under the right supervision. I've been using steroids for probably 38 years. And I took a physical, of course, for that fight I did, for the surgeries, and I'm absolutely 100% healthy. It is the individual who overuses steroids, who mixes it with other type of chemicals. These bodybuilders that are 5'9", 5'10", and weigh 300 pounds, and the muscle mass is just ridiculous. They incorporate these high dosages of PEDs. These guys love to party with ecstasy, cocaine, heroin, the whole combination. You're just taxing your body and taxing your liver. And all these people know exactly what I'm talking about. Your liver can only filter out so many liters of blood per hour, guys. Let's apply some common sense, some intelligence out here, and you're going to understand exactly what I'm saying.
So, are you on steroids right now?
I'm on testosterone therapy, absolutely, yes.
Aha. Okay. Now, what about human growth hormone?
No. No.
Okay. Now, a lot of people do take HGH.
I have no idea about that, to be honest with you. Basically, what I'm doing is replacing my own testosterone that my pituitary gland produces anyways. I'm trying to keep it up at a certain level because as you get older, of course, naturally your testosterone level drops in increments of maybe 10% per year. So in order to maintain a youthful look, muscle density, you've got to maintain certain chemicals in your body. People know that we're mostly made up of chemicals. And death starts occurring when these chemicals start diminishing. What you want to do is maintain a certain level of chemicals during your whole lifetime. Certain levels.
Well, when you talk about side effects of steroids, the one thing you always hear is steroid rage. Do you feel like you've experienced that in times of your life?
I think if you're an asshole, you're an asshole. Is that to say that every time some crime of passion, of aggression, of anger is committed, the individual's using steroids? That's a myth, complete myth. The issue is that most people don't understand steroids, don't understand the chemical breakdown of steroids, how they're used properly, why they were invented and created. So now the ignorance comes into play. The lack of knowledge comes into play. And that's where you hear these strange rumors about PEDs.
Well, in 2008, you had actually revealed that your house in Encino got foreclosed on. And you said that it was 2 divorces that actually caused it, $7 million. Each of those cost you between $7 and $8 million.
One did for sure, yes.
I mean, how does it feel to have been Jose Canseco? You made $50-something million, and now you're having to foreclose on your house and give it back to the bank.
Well, it gets even worse than that. After that, I lived in the garage for 6 months with no money. I remember one time having $20 in my pocket. So I've experienced a lot. I'm very knowledgeable in that aspect. And I think in life, you're going to get knocked down several times. I think the most important thing is how you get back up, how you can recuperate, how you can rebound, and how you can become a better person from it.
Well, you feel that you've been blackballed by baseball.
I know that I have. And,
Okay.
and I've been told by many people. So, but that's passé. That's in the past. Nobody really cares anymore. That's such a long time ago that it's irrelevant at this point.
Well, in 2007, you received 6 Hall of Fame votes, which was 1.1% of the ballots. You needed 5% to get that. Do you feel like you'll ever get in the Hall of Fame?
No, and I should not because my numbers don't qualify. I was injured too many times. I didn't play enough. If I were not injured, I think I ranked 12th or 13th in the world home runs per at bat. I just didn't play enough. So my numbers just don't qualify. Yes, if I would have played 20 years, 22 years, at the home run per at bat ratio, I would hit over 750 home runs, maybe 800 home runs. But my career was cut short and I was too injured. Did I have the ability? Absolutely. Yes.
Well, in 2008, there was a former NFL player, Sikahima. He actually challenged you to a fight for $30,000.
It was 50.
And you accepted it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was $50,000. Okay, my bad.
Let's get our numbers correct here. 50,000.
Let's get our numbers right.
Yeah,
right.
there's so many rumors out there, so many incorrect rumors. I think we're here to tell the truth. Yeah.
You end up having the fight. He's 5'9", you're 6'4". He ended up knocking you out.
Never knocked me out. Incorrect.
No. Incorrect?
Never knocked me out.
Okay.
Did you see the fight?
What happened in that fight? I did not.
But when you're knocked out, that means you can't get back up.
Okay, he knocked you down.
Thank you. I mean, we're here to tell the truth. I'm about the truth. I'm bound to the truth. So let's talk about the truth. The rest is just perception.
Well, and that kind of set the stage for further, fights that you had. Now, why did you, former, baseball superstar decide to get in the ring?
$50,000. I needed the money. I was going through a very hard time. And it was supposed to be more celebrity-style boxing. It wasn't supposed to go down that way. As a matter of fact, we were supposed to have a second match, which never happened. Basically, I thought, I never trained for that kind of stuff. Basically, I thought we were going to go in there and pity-pat around a little bit. So I go in there, pity-pat. I didn't realize he was Golden Gloves boxer. He had a lot of boxing experience, knew how to box. He jump lunged at me and hit me with a left shot, perfect, caught me perfect. Knocked me off my feet. Then basically, I'm out of breath. I get back up and just run out of air, kind of gasped, thinking, what just happened? So after that fight, I took celebrity boxing a little more serious. I trained. I think I won 3 or 4 in a row. But it was never kind of like, I took it for granted. I didn't take it serious. And that's where he got me. No ifs, buts about it.
Okay. Well, and speaking of boxing, your daughter at one point started dating Logan Paul.
Right.
And the two of you would start beefing with each other on social media.
I think you got to understand how social media works, guys. It's all a creation. If I send out a tweet and you take it serious every single time, I've done my job. I've created hype, a sensation, and that creates finances, whoever does that. I think we get so caught up in social media. I think people believe that everything that's said by the media is true and accurate. It is not. Again, you're talking about the average ignorant individual that gets caught up in that. That's how these huge fights are being created that are making 100 million, 150 million. So if you can't figure it out by now, then you've got the problem.
Okay. What do you think about Logan and Jake Paul's boxing careers, being someone who boxed himself as well?
I think they're doing great. I think they're making a killing. I think what they have is social media savvy. I think they understand the world of social media. Leave the kids alone. Leave the guys alone. They're making a living. It's the haters out there that are being more entertained than anyone else. And the haters are the ones paying the big dollars to watch these kids fight. But ironically or not, they're intellects. They're doing what they want to do and they're making a ton of money at it. And they're making you, the dummy, pay for it. The hater.
Well, what did you think about the Jake Paul fight with Nate Robinson?
It wasn't really that big of a fight. I mean, they have okay talent, but it was sold well, and both guys did great.
I don't know if both guys did great.
Well, listen, you take a risk when you go in there.
Right.
You understand the actual risk. One guy got knocked out pretty bad, but next time, put your gloves up and defend yourself a little better.
Okay, because you kept fighting. You ended up fighting former child actor Danny Beneducci.
Bonaducci, yeah. And
Yep.
that was an orchestrated fight. That was ridiculous. As a matter of fact, he never touched me. And I think at the time he was undefeated, they asked me, Jose, do you mind if we give it a draw? I said, fine, there's no problem. I've got no ego. Contrast what people say about me, they'll know me. I said, fine, this is just all for fun. We both did well, we made some money, and we had a good time, and no one got hurt. Absolutely.
Okay, and then in May 2009, you fought 7'2" kickboxer Hongman Choi.
That was a real fight. That was my first professional fight, MMA style, and I had a really bad knee injury. I had torn my knee out completely. I was supposed to fight with a knee brace on. They wouldn't let me use my knee brace, but I had no chance anyways. They paid me a ton of money, and I went in there, I knew that I was going to lose. And imagine, I'm 46 years old with a bad knee, and I'm fighting a guy 7'2", 400 pounds, professional fighter. When I see guys fighting in the ring, I know one guy's going to lose. And let me tell you something. You got to give both those guys credit for going in there and understanding that one guy could get hurt very, very badly. And I knew I was going to lose. The only criteria was that how badly was I going to be hurt, because these men are huge. I got lucky enough that my knee gave out and I went down. He came on top of me, started pounding me in the back of the head instead of landing on top of me and hit me in the face where he can break my actual jaw. So I got lucky in that sense, but that was a real fight.
Okay, and then later that year, you fought Todd Poulton.
Again, that wasn't really, if you look at that fight, that was kind of like a joke fight. I think at that time, no one really wanted to get hurt. Everyone wanted to hurt him. And it turned out great. No one got hurt.
So most recently, on February 5th, you had a fight against Billy Football.
Right.
How did that one go?
Again, sold very well. Hype was created very well. There was never any animosity between us in any way, shape, or form. This is the way you sell a fight. And simply, I did quite well financially, and that's why I went into a fight with a bad knee and a torn up right shoulder. Simply, that's what happened. Everyone thought I was going to beat him. I knew that I had no chance. But that's the way it was portrayed. And the hype was created, and it sold great. We broke all kind of records in pay-per-view, and no one really got hurt. Well, I just went through shoulder surgery because when I hit the ground, my shoulder popped out again and blew my right shoulder out completely. My right knee gave out when I went down. Of course, so I had just come out of knee surgery 4 months before that. When I threw my first jab, basically I only had one punch. When I threw my first jab, I blew my peg out completely. So by the time I hit the ground, my knee was gone and both my shoulders were blown out. Was never hit. He was never hit. We all made a lot of money. Barstool Sports came after, congratulated me because they made a ton of money off of me. And that was the whole fight. It was a 10-second fight sold on pure hype.
Well, Jose Canseco, hell of a story. Hell of a story, hell of a career, hell of a life. And I really feel that because of the steroid thing, you're not really given the flowers that you deserve. With all of the MVPs and the World Series titles and all the awards and everything else like that, there always seems to be an asterisk by your name. And does that bother you, or have you really accepted that?
I've accepted it. I mean, for me, that was another life ago, another person ago. I'm living a separate, different life now. That was the baseball player. Now I'm the person. That's it.
There you have it. Jose Canseco, appreciate the time. Wish you all the best. And are you done with boxing, or are you still going to get in the ring a few more times?
Well, I'm going to have my left shoulder done and my knee looked at again, but maybe I'll be back in a year.
All right. Looking forward to it. Until next time.
Take care.
Peace.